every time you get the rejection, and every time you go full of dreams to go find a job or try to do a show that you want to do, and then the people that is behind the table, they'll say, well, not this time. Thank you. I would say that experience, like every experience like those, it transforms you. You need to choose. It's either you get stronger or you get weaker. You need to fight every day. And I would say dance transformed me. And I see my students being depressed, being so sad,
Yeah.
and I come close to them and I'll say always, in this career, in this profession, sometimes it's not really how good you are as a dancer, it's how you.
Welcome to our I Am Workshop Conversation Series, a transformative journey designed to inspire self-discovery and ignite your creative spirit. Today's guest is Mariano Villarello, an accomplished dancer, choreographer, and educator with over 20 years of experience. Trained in Mexico, Los Angeles, and New York, Mariano has performed across television, film, theater, and international stages. As a passionate teacher and international judge, he is dedicated to shaping the next generation of dancers with love, respect, and deep artistry. Welcome, Mariano, to I Am Conversations.
Thanks for having me. What an honor. Thanks for taking the time and have this conversation.
And he's also my cousin.
Yay!
Yeah, my Claudia's cousin. Yes,
makes
he's
you
also
our
my cousin. So Mariano, I just wanted to ask you the first question. Was there an experience that transformed you into who you are today?
Dance transformed me since the day I discovered I wanted to do it, and I wanted to push for that profession, which is so hard and which requires you to train really hard, to keep pushing every day, to really feel and to really go through these ups and downs, especially with the rejection that as an artist, but I would say as a dancer specifically, we live every audition, and every time we try to get a job, and every time you get the rejection, and every time you go full of dreams to go find a job or try to do a show that you want to do, and then the people that is behind the table, they'll say, well, not this time. Thank you. And I would say that experience, like every experience like those, it transforms you every time. And every time you get, it's either you need to choose. It's either you get stronger or you get weaker. So you need to fight every day. And I would say dance transformed me every day in a general point of view. Then there's like these specific things in life that keep the transformation going, as I'm recently going through, that we will talk later. But yes, I would say dance, and that was the first thing. And probably coming from the family that we both come, full of artists and full of crazy people, that I love when I still now, when I think about my family, when I see them, we're just like out of our minds. Chloe, I know you know that perfectly. We're like,
oh yeah,
seriously, everybody's crazy and
everybody's talking.
everybody's talking.
Everybody talks at the same time.
Yeah,
As
everyone's very
Latinos,
Latin.
you guys know, as Latinos, that's
Yeah.
part of who we are. We love having everybody talking at the same time and laughing. Plus, imagine that. Plus, my grandfather being from Spain, even crazier. And my grandmother and my aunt Carmen, your mama Clovia.
Did you know that Carmen Gutierrez was the first Mexican on Broadway?
Being Latinas, dancers. So that's all I saw since I was a kid. Your father, your amazing father, tap dancing all over the place and being funny. And like, if I look back now, I go, what was happening? What a fun family that I appreciate. I think now that I'm older, I look at my whole story, just like feel of gratitude and so grateful that I lived and I was born in this family. I wouldn't
That's so
change it,
beautiful.
really.
You were talking about going to auditions. How do you handle the rejection?
It's terrible.
It is. And it's not just you, it's a lot of dancers
Artists.
and artists in
It's
general.
the art. It's the art world. It's
Mhm.
the art
Yeah.
world. Um, I'm not really sure how I did it. I think it was that drive that I wanted to make it happen.
Yeah.
So if I think like specifically certain moments that they really hit me, yes, I had those when you're thinking about a show that you want to do, and that's the show, the specific project that you really want to get hired, and it just doesn't happen. I mean, at that moment you don't really understand, but there is a special reason and there is a magic reason for you not to get that job. And sometimes if you learn something in the dance business, and here's something, I'm so grateful because of the age I am right now and how old I am right now, because now I'm passing this information to the new generation.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Now that I'm teaching, and that's what I do now, and I teach all over the country, and I see my students being depressed, being so sad, being
Yeah.
always thinking if it's really worth it, the amount of hours they're training and the amount of hours they are investing in their craft. And I come close to them and I'll say always, in this career, in this profession, sometimes it's not really how good you are as a dancer, it's how you handle the rejection and how strong you become every time they say, no, thank you, maybe next time. It puts you in a very vulnerable position where you really question about yourself. You really question, like, am I in the right profession? Is this right for me? Should I keep pushing? Or maybe I
Yeah.
just find another thing to do in life, even though this is my big number one passion. But if I think about myself, I don't know, maybe it was the drive that I had, because people always say, so, but what was your plan B? In art,
You didn't have a plan B.
there's always that, what's the plan B? Well, not, to be honest, I didn't have a
Death. Right? Death. Yes.
And Mariano, persistence. I mean, you need a lot of structure and especially persistence and just because there's a lot of people that don't have that. I mean, what would be in 3 words, what would be what you need just to go up there? First, I mean, you say you're not afraid of failure. And second would be consistency, discipline.
Well, let me just say this. I was and I am afraid of failure. We all are. So you have to do it even though you're scared. Like, you have to just jump and say, I'm scared to death right now, and I have to do it. So that's number one. And you just said the right word: discipline, discipline, and more discipline.
Yeah.
I would say that's, you need to push. You need to push every day, every day, every day, every day. You need to take care of yourself. You need to take classes. You need to train. You need to train. For dancers, especially, if I would say, if art it's difficult in like so many different areas, when it comes to dance, it's so hard, and it put dancers in a very special place because it has to do with our bodies.
Right.
So it's what we use.
Yeah.
So you go through injuries, you go through so much pain. Your body hurts like crazy. And then if for some reason something goes wrong and you get injured, then you have to stop for a bit. And then you have to recover, and you need to do your physiotherapy, and you need to take care of yourself, and then go back. And when you go back, you feel like you lost so much time because you didn't train for those months or those weeks. So I would say discipline, it's your number one. And even though it sounds like it's very cliche, but it's what it is.
Yeah, yeah. And I was talking about just that instead of in one speech that I'm doing, I was talking about never leave your fear behind. Just fly with your fear as a co-pilot, because everything that resists persists. So if you leave your fear behind, you can't do it because it becomes worse, right?
Yes, I think it's amazing. And I think it's pretty much what I was saying. Fear is going to be there. Well, we all have fears, and we just have to, like you say, it's your co-pilot. I love that. I love
Yeah.
that. You just have to navigate with it, and
Mhm.
what are we going to do?
No, but I was thinking about what you were saying about rejection, and part of being an artist is the known. We know that we are going to be rejected. And the tough thing is that, it depends on the projects. If they're long or short, it's how many times you get rejected in a month. So I think that's what is tough.
The amount.
The amount of times you get to be told no. It's not the
But
one.
it thickens your skin, doesn't
Yeah,
it?
it
It makes
definitely
your skin
does.
You get a master in that. You become, right,
A
seriously. It's
PhD.
like,
a
What a
master's
master's.
in
the
rejection.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's the
PhD in
everyday
rejection.
thing. Yeah, you feel like, okay, one more rejection,
You put
and
it
I
in the
think
bag and you move on to the next.
the more you practice, the more you kind of like, you still care. But here's the thing, and I think that's such a good point of view, because as dancers, especially coming from Mexico, from a country like Mexico City, or I would say probably Latin America, Argentina, Venezuela, Nicaragua,
Ecuador.
Ecuador, you know, I think Mexico, it's a little bit different, because Mexico City, where I live and where I developed mostly my career. I went away for a few years overseas, but there's not really many chances.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yes, there is work, but this is not New York. This is
Yeah.
not LA. In New York, a dancer, probably, if it's auditioning season, they audition probably 3 times a day,
Wow.
or four, or
Okay.
maybe five if you have the time. If you're lucky, you probably visit 5 different auditions. In Mexico, sometimes you have to wait months to get a musical, like I
Ah.
did, or you have to wait weeks because, oh, I know they're coming to do the audition, and then you're just waiting. It's so interesting though, because even though right now it's 2026, the new
Mm-hmm.
generation of dancers, which I have the privilege to work with, I think we used to have more work when I was younger, when I was really like a dancer on stage.
Mm-hmm.
How old were you?
Professionally, I think my first job, well, I did my first job at 14.
No,
Okay.
wow.
So in Mexico, there's not that many auditions, and there's not that many uh, jobs like every day you will go to an audition. So probably you practice a little bit less and a little bit less often,
Uh-huh.
as opposed to New York, you practice that every freaking day.
Yeah.
And then you get used to, like, okay, I did this 3 audition and I didn't get them. Tomorrow
Mhm.
will be another day. I will have 4 more auditions. Here, what I see is, oh, I'm gonna have to wait 4 months for the next show. So I think it gets more difficult,
Frustrating.
And
frustrating.
you were talking before we started to record about someone asked you, when did you first knew that you wanted to become a
Yeah.
dancer? When was that moment?
The moment was one moment that it's in my head, like if it was yesterday. And actually, if I close my eyes, I could see like everything that was around me. It happened in my living room at my parents'. Of course, I was 4 years old, and I was sitting in one of the couches in the sofa, and my mom was there, and my grandma was there, or probably it was only my mom, and then she played a record, like literally a record. Um, and she played some music, and then I started moving with the music, like my rhythm was on point.
Mhm.
It
Mhm.
like I started being like clapping with the music, and I was totally on rhythm, right? And so I
Yeah.
remember my mom called my grandma and she said something like, look at him, like, look his, the sense of rhythm.
Yeah.
And my grandma, which I missed every day, I remember she said, oh, he's going to be a dancer. Boom.
Bum.
Yeah. And I remember she called my mom, and my mom told me. And I remember my mom telling me that they were laughing because you were dancing. Yeah, they thought it was really cute. Yeah.
the,
And and then from there, what happened?
and then from there, I think then I turned 5, 6, 7. And then my sister, as a little, teenager, she was put in dance classes. And my sister really didn't like it. I mean, she was doing it because for some reason my grandma said, oh, put her in ballet class. And then she said, I don't want to do ballet, I want to do jazz. And so they moved her to a different studio. And that studio, they changed my life. That's another very special
Transformation.
moment. Transformation.
Transformational process.
Yes, because when my sister was moved to that other studio, my mom said, I want to go with you and see the class and watch the class. And she
Uh-huh.
took me with her. And I was 7 years old. And I remember I was this little kid and I was looking at, the dancers in the studio, and I will pay attention to everything they were doing. And then my mom says that I will go home and I will kind of like reply and copy the movements they were doing. So that studio changed my life because my sisters, my sister said 6 months later, said, I don't want to be there anymore. Like, I just don't want to do dance. And my mom asked me, do you want to get into the studio? And of course, you're a little kid, you're 8. I was 8 at the moment. And I said, no, that's for girls. I don't want to go. But I want to be. I remember the first moment. I remember when I watched the first Gene Kelly movie.
Singing in the
Oh,
rain.
yeah.
I think my grandma showed it, Singing in the Rain or something. And when I saw tap dancing, I said, that's what I want to do. And at the dance studio that my sister was training, they had tap classes. And so when my mom said, this is your opportunity, they do have tap classes. Why don't you try? And I was like, I don't know. I was a little kid and I was like, and then for some reason I said, okay, let me try. And I never stopped. For real.
That
Like,
was a moment.
the moment I said, let me try, and I took my first class, never stopped. Never stopped.
Wow. So that was your passion. That was the purpose of life. Your purpose. You find it really, really young.
Mind you, but you don't know that's your purpose.
Right.
And I think now that I'm older, that's now when I'm going back and I'm trying to kind of look at my life and the evolution of it and see, okay, was that really my purpose?
Right.
Mhm.
Is that the only one? I don't think there's only one purpose. I think
Mhm.
it changes within time and it
Yeah.
changes
Yeah.
with age, and it changes with every time you close a chapter. So, but definitely was one of my purpose.
Yes. And what would you tell your little self today if you could talk to the little boy that was
That
going into
I
that class?
that I did it amazing. That for some reason, I knew without really knowing how was I going to do it, that I was able to have teachers, especially the first studio, which, my first tap teacher became pretty much my second mom.
Mm-hmm.
Because after the first year that I was just going twice a week, she felt that I was like her son. So from 2 days a week, I went to 3 days a week. Then I went to 4 days a week. Then I went to 5 days a week of training. And
Yeah.
I will spend days and days with her. After school, my mom will drive me there. She will throw me there and drop me with her. And literally, I will stay there till like 8, 8:30 at night. and I will take classes sometimes with the other students, sometimes privates. She will show me books, movies. We will, things that are, right now are not the usual. Everything now it's here. So
Right.
basically, the young generation can just go like that and search for everything. But
Mhm.
or it was the book. It was the
Yeah.
magic of, like, let me play this movie for you that I was able to find in VHS.
Right.
No, let me find it. Let me show you this book that somebody, brought it to me from New York. So it was like the
It
event.
was the thing.
It
Yeah.
was the
It was
thing.
meaningful.
So it was
And
meaningful. So I could say to my little kid, you know what? How lucky I was, probably. How lucky I was to be really, guided by these amazing people. Of course, my grandma, and of course, Maclovia's mom, and her father, of course, Remy, which the three of them were kind of like, after getting to know their professional dance career, because they
Mhm.
were like really, really successful in their craft, which not everybody can say that. They were like really, really successful. So they were
Great.
like the base, the roots, and then my teachers. And then I would say how lucky I was.
Yeah, they were in
Yeah.
Broadway, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they
Mhm.
were. And what other question, Mariano? And right now, what will be your biggest challenge you're going through right now, and how are you dealing with? You
As
said you were going to
professional or
tell us
as
about
a human
something.
being?
Excuse me?
As professional or as a
As a
human being?
human being, let's go into the deep dive.
Well, I think that the first, like, really hard moment when you are getting older is getting to know when you are going to stop.
Hmm.
That's very difficult in dance, versus painters or singers, or
Well, it's so
writers.
physical. It's so physical. Yeah.
It's so physical, or being an actor, for example, which I would say that's kind of like one of my biggest things, that frustrations, that I didn't really develop into that, and I really didn't evolve to the acting side. But I would say the first moment is when you have to realize that, when is that moment gonna start? When I start saying no to certain jobs, when I wasn't feeling my best. I was lucky because I danced for so many years, but not only that, I danced a lot.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it is a lot. Just the years I lived in Japan for almost 6 years,
But
Hmm.
I was dancing 5 shows a day.
Wow.
Wow.
So, it's a lot. And then other shows that, came to my life. But
Hmm.
I think the first moment I would say is, okay, when is the moment to stop? Is this right now? Is this when? Am I gonna give myself like one more year, 2 years, 3 years? Like, you're never ready. You're never
Hmm.
ready. And I think, to me, it wasn't that hard. The transition wasn't that hard because I fell in love with teaching.
Hmm.
okay.
The problem
Hmm.
is when, as an artist, you don't have a second passion, or you don't find something else to do. That's really hard. But I started teaching, and then for some reason I discovered that I loved it, and I really started to get ready to do that happen, to make that happen, and to make that transition. Because it's not that, oh, I'm going to start teaching tomorrow. No, you have to prepare, you have to teach, you have
Yeah.
to learn, you have to study, you have to. So then I started taking a lot of workshops and going to different uh, dance teachers, like seminars, and going like crazy, deep, deep,
Mhm.
deep, deep, deep into the teaching world. But
Hmm.
that moment, I would say, probably was hard. And then you kind of like start, just transitioning into that. And then, as a human being, I think, as probably the most of human beings, is to start saying goodbye to your loved ones, and to start, um, you have to, my first big loss was, of course, my grandparent, but I was very young. But then when I lost my grandma, kind of like it shaked me into my core, because we were not expecting it. It just happened, and it just happened. Like, it was 48 hours, and within
Mhm.
that, she was gone. That was another moment that, as a human being, it's one of those moments that totally changed the course of your life. And then we said goodbye to Remy, Maclovia's dad, and then I had to say goodbye to Carmen. I think those moments have been teaching me a lot, and we reached this moment in my life that, it all started. I think the big thing happened probably before, 4 years ago, right after COVID. Both of my parents were at the hospital.
Wow.
So that, to me, at the same time. So that, to me, was kind of like a totally stop in my life, because the same, we were not expecting it, and it just happened. Then they both got very lucky, and then, even though my dad's situation was very difficult, he made it through. It was a moment that, of course, was terrible. And even the doctor that saved his life, she came outside before he was getting into surgery, and she said to me and my sister, we were both together, and she said,
Mm.
"I think it's the moment to say goodbye to your dad." Those were the words.
Wow.
And she made it through. He made it through,
Good.
as a miracle.
Oh my God.
And then, unfortunately, last year at the end of the summer, our whole life and the whole family changed. Terrible. It was a 180-degree spin,
Mhm.
in the matter of nothing. 1 minute, my whole family were all destroyed and broken, because
Uh-huh.
my dad got sick, and he was diagnosed with a brain tumor.
Wow.
And literally, that transformed me 100%, 200%. There's not even a percentage to
It humbles
describe.
you. It humbles
No,
you.
It
it
humbles.
really it humbles you, because then we realize only in those moments how fragile life is and how a little thing can disrupt absolutely everything.
And how we
Everything.
don't appreciate when we have what we have. Yeah.
I was thinking, especially at the very beginning, when you start to get to know everything, and you take decisions with your family, and the surgery, and this and that. And then I really had that time to go back and say, okay, did I spend good times with my dad? Was I a good son?
Hmm.
Was my time with him? Probably I wasn't the closest with him when I was younger. I think I
Hmm.
became a little closer later on, within
Mm-hmm.
time, when I got
Mm-hmm.
older. We became a little closer, and especially probably the last 2 years before he got sick, I was always spending as much time as I could with both of them. But of course, this changed everything. This just destroyed the rhythm of the family, the structure of the
Mm-hmm.
Well,
family.
Mm-hmm.
that though, yeah, and that's when you put things into perspective, because then you realize what's really important. And going back to rejection, I think in those moments, then you would say, I would rather take 1,000 no's than have be with my family and have spent quality time with them. So
Right,
then you don't
totally
worry
right.
about the no so much, you
Almost
realize
like
what's
they
valuable.
they prepped you, like all those no's of rejection was prepping you for this moment or
I
these
Hmm.
never
moments,
thought
right?
about it that way, Maclovia. I never thought about it like that, but you're so right. You're so right. I never thought about it like that. But it's true. I think now, because of course, when you start going through something like this, then you get all this, like, opinions and
Yeah.
everything that the doctors say.
Uh-huh. Yeah, yeah.
So basically, it's like, no, we can do that. No, no, there's no possibility.
Yeah.
No, there's no a chance for that. So I never thought about it, but it's true. It kind of like um, prepares you a little bit, and also I think at the same time, just like in dance, you just have to let it go.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You have to flow with it, and it's painful and it's terrible, and your heart, it's sore, and your stomach hurts and your soul hurts, seriously, and you just try to put your best face every
Yeah.
day. I go there and I spend time with him. Something that happened to me that was a very a big transformation also, when they got sick the first time and they both were at the hospital. Don't ask me why, but I think it was sort of like a call from God and from the faith I do have. um I became obsessed with the whole near death experiences. Seriously, it was like magic, and it was God sending me all these messages because I became obsessed with that.
Yeah.
And
It's like 1 second and you are in another, how I
And
say,
and then for
realm.
some,
Realm. Yeah.
yeah.
right, and
And
then
how did your perspective change?
that's it. All of a sudden, it was a podcast, and then another one, and then another interview, and then another thing that just, popped into your YouTube. And then day by day, I was changing the way I was looking at the whole
Death.
loss, and
Yeah,
the
feeling of
whole
loss. Yeah, it
with dealing
actually
with.
it helps you. It calms you.
But then there was one that totally changed me when this woman said, I had this accident, and then, I die, and I was like, they said she's dead. And then I came back, and
Mhm.
now, and then for some reason she says, I don't really know. Like, if you ask me,
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't come back. I wouldn't, like, I would have stayed there.
The one that lives, the one that suffers is the one that stays. Yeah.
Well, we have to go through our learning. And
Yeah.
we're here. We're here for experience and learning. I think
And
our
we
real
wrote,
home is somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and we wrote our lives before coming.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
so we're
So
okay. We shouldn't fear that.
when I started doing that and becoming, obsessed with this whole near death experiences, because I've watched so many, it gives you peace in a way. It calms you down. You start looking at the whole thing from a different perspective. And of course, then this hit my family, and this hit my dad.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, you can't, you have to feel it even closer.
Hmm.
So I felt it, that I was like, shit, this moment is getting here. It's getting here. It's getting here. I'm getting closer every day. He's
Yeah.
getting closer every day. And I think to me, what hurts the most is to see my mom going through what she's going through. It's another moment, because I'm dealing with my own feelings and trying to give a little bit of sense and a direction.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
But it's what's happening with my mom, because she's just losing my dad. They've
Mm-hmm.
been
Yeah.
together for over
Yeah.
60 years. Oh my
And
gosh.
she's, that, like, they talk about the family as caregivers as well. He doesn't really know how much you guys are going through.
No, no, no,
And
no, no, no.
that's usually what happens, like with my mom and my dad. They were sort of checked out, and they
Mm-hmm.
don't know how hard it is on the family. It's
Yeah.
really, especially
The
when it
really
goes on.
the ones that really need support are the caregivers. Yeah, the patient is
But
always being taken care of, but the
I mean,
caregivers need support.
yeah, I remember the story you were telling me the other day, Maclovia, when you were taking care of your mom. I mean, nobody knows what the person, the
No.
caregiver is going. So Maclovia was telling me like for an hour what she felt. And it was, wow. I mean, nobody knows. It's
Yeah.
like, yeah, well, her mom died, but nobody knew your process. And that's the
Mhm.
process. That's
I
the
thought I was going to
the
die
evolving
before her.
procedure. Yeah.
It was I was sleep deprived. I got COVID when it first came out, and I had to take care of my mom with 104 fever. Like it was just, I, I was just like, oh my God. And my dog was having epileptic attacks at the same time. So it was just insane. It was crazy. But then you get through it. That's why I'm saying, like, the prepping of your life, like all these dance rehearsals and rejections, but you also get some great things, right?
Right.
I mean,
But
if you get a part or you're judging, you're a judge. The good, so
Yeah,
you know that
and
you'll get past it.
right, but also just to add a little bit to what Maclovia was saying, as a caregiver, as a family member, like you said, Maclovia, you think you're gonna die before them because it's like, am I gonna be like really ready to be for tomorrow? Because am I gonna be
Mhm.
okay? Am I gonna be strong enough?
Mhm.
Um, you just
But
don't know how you find the strength to keep going and keep
well,
going and keep.
it I've been a caregiver for lots of family members, and what I learned was that I rather be the caregiver than be on the other side.
As a
Wow.
family member, you mean?
Yeah, as a
Wow.
family member, I
Yeah.
rather be the healthy one taking care of somebody than being the sick one.
Oh,
When I was taking care of my brother, I was like thinking I'd rather be 1,000 times in my position now, even though this is the most difficult thing that I could ever go through,
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
because it doesn't compare to what he is going through. I mean,
Mhm.
I couldn't feel that I could complain when I knew that he was going through the most difficult thing, and he was going through dialysis, and it was just horrible.
Yeah, every
But
day.
um so yeah, so that's where we get the strength, I guess,
Mhm.
because the other person is weaker than us.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So even though we are running on empty,
uh, I think to keep to find a way to keep being very grateful every day, it's so hard.
Mhm.
Do you know what's also something to be very grateful for? Um, in a country like Mexico, and because of we were able and we were so lucky, and I don't know if lucky it's the right
It's the
word,
right
but we
word.
were, yeah, so fortunate to have the support of other family
Oh
members
yeah,
that are
completely.
able to financially support what's happening. Even though my dad, thank God every day for the medical insurance he has,
Hmm.
because there's no money that is going to be enough. Let me tell you that there is no money that is going to be enough to help you with this. But
Yeah,
the medical insurance, it's been amazing. But when it comes to the caregivers that we hired, we're not talking about like regular caregivers.
of course.
These are nurses from the hospital that work in intensive care,
Hmm.
that take care
Wow.
of them
Wow.
24/7.
Wow.
Right.
As we speak right now, he's there with his nurse. I was just there. I just came here to do the interview, the chat with you, and then I will go back.
Go
And
back.
then there's, they change turns and they change the nurse. You know
Yeah.
how you know how freaking lucky we are, and how
Yeah.
Yeah.
grateful I feel that we are kind of surfing this ocean and this situation with these blessings.
Yes. And compared
Those
to
those
everybody, yeah.
ladies are angels, let me tell you,
Yes.
So,
because
Yes.
somehow
yeah.
everything aligns and everything works out. And yeah, it's a big thank you moment.
A
And
Yes.
super big thank you moment. And when you talk to them and you hear the stories that they share with you,
yeah.
no, you want to jump from the balcony and kill yourself. Because, no, seriously, because when I spend time with them and
Well, you would
they
do it more gracefully than us.
of
Yeah.
course,
You
No,
will have a
yeah,
no, don't
rhythm,
jump from the
at
balcony
least from the
because you
balcony
probably
with
won't die.
rhythm.
Be like, woo.
And then somebody's gonna
In a
be
nice
taking care of you
position.
But here's something.
from
Do you feel that dance is a form of healing or connection for you now with all this going on?
I love that question. You know what? It is, but I will tell you why. It is because it's my life. So I am lucky to be a teacher. I am lucky to that I can work.
Mm-hmm.
I work a lot. It was so hard for me at the beginning to take the decision because at the beginning I stopped everything. And
Yeah.
then once the process starts, and then my dad was lucky to go home, and he was sent home and spend time at home with the nurses and the caregivers or whatever. I said, well, I guess it's time for me to go back to work
Mm-hmm.
because I have to work. I need the money. I need to keep going with my own life.
Right.
I have to. I'm gonna go
Mm-hmm.
crazy. I'm gonna
No,
really go crazy. So I
you have
was
to do it.
lucky, and then of course, at the beginning, it felt like crap when you go to the studio and you have to teach. And then when I started traveling again, I wasn't on, taking a flight, and I was like, how in the world am I doing this? I
Yeah.
should be at home with him. How can I be doing this? And you know what? Then I go to the studio and I will go teach and do my work and dance, and it's part of your healing.
Mm-hmm.
No,
It's
Mm-hmm.
part of
it's self-care.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
it's self-care.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And
So
the question we always ask, Mariano, if you would have to give a message to humanity, what would you say to them right now?
be grateful, have faith in something, believe. We cannot do it alone. If you think that alone by myself, I'm going to do this, no. You need all this magical, you can call it God. For me, it's God. It could be your angels, that I also believe in my angels. You could be, you can think about your family members that are in a better place, that are taking care of you. Call it whatever you want. Have faith. We have to and we have to hold on to something bigger than us. Otherwise,
Yeah.
we're gonna be a mess. We're gonna be broken like this.
Mm, that's
Yeah. And we were
beautiful.
not born to be broken or sad.
What's that?
We were not born to be broken or sad.
That's the thing. That's the thing. Even though we fight, and it's okay. We're humans. Yes, we get sad. We get really depressed some days. We don't know how we're gonna make it through the next day. But someone out there and someone up there is saying, you were not put there to be sad.
Exactly.
What we lose are gonna be and are actually in a so much better place.
And Maclovia has always a little present.
Oh, I'm going
if
to
you
pull a
want
card,
to.
an angel card for
Yes,
you.
an
An
angel
angel
card.
card.
Hold on. I'm just going to mix it up. And then I'm just going to hit it.
Yeah.
And I'm going to pull a card.
I've never seen the hit a thing.
It says innocence.
Ah.
And let me read this. It says, beloved one, everyone is guiltless in truth, as no one can alter God's handiwork of perfection. Give us your feelings of heaviness so we can lighten your load. You were just talking about that. Give us any guilt, anger, or blame that may shroud your loving outlook. Enjoy the peace within your heart once more. So there you go,
Love it.
Mariano.
For
see?
you.
Thank you so much for the space, for being interested in listening to other people's stories and share, like they say, here and there, share knowledge, share a little bit of what we go through. That's one of the reasons we're here in this lab.
Yeah.